3 women vanish from a suburban home in Springfield, Missouri. There's no forced entry, no signs of a struggle, and everything they own is still inside. But they're gone, and no one knows how or why. I'm Dan Semitovich, and this is Deviant. It's the night of June 6, 1992. It's graduation night in Springfield, Missouri. 19-year-old Suzie Streeter and 18-year-old Stacy McCall are out with friends. They take pictures. They float between houses. It's a celebration. They have plans for the next day, too. They're going to Whitewater, a water park out in Branson, Missouri. They're supposed to sleep at their friend Janelle's house and then leave with her the next morning to go to the water park. But as the night goes on, the place gets crowded. There are people everywhere. There's no space to sleep, so sometime after 2 a.m., the girls decide to leave and go to Suzie's mom's house on Delmar Street. Suzie's just gotten a king-size waterbed as a graduation gift from her mom, 47-year-old Sherrill Levitt. It's the perfect solution. It's close and it's quiet. They can get a good night's sleep and be up early for the water park. They say their goodbyes and drive off into the early morning. It's the last time anyone sees them. The next morning, their friend Janelle wants to meet up early. The plan is to leave for Whitewater around 8 a.m. She calls Suzie's house to check in. No answer. She calls again. Still nothing. She figures they overslept after a long night, but when she can't get them on the phone, she drives over to Delmar Street with her boyfriend. The girls' cars are parked in the driveway, right where they should be if everyone's inside getting ready for the day. Janelle knocks on the front door. No one answers. She tries the door, and it's unlocked. She steps inside, and the house is quiet. Janelle calls out for Suzie, for Stacy, for Sherrill. No one answers. She sees 3 purses lined up at the foot of the staircase near the living room. Their wallets are still inside. Their cash is still inside. Their keys are still inside. It doesn't make sense. She walks through the house and looks all over, but there's no sign of Suzie, Stacy, or Sherrill. The first assumption is that they all left somehow and would be back soon, but they don't come back. Janelle leaves worried, but she figures there's a logical reason for all this. It'll all make sense when they show up and explain. Not long after Janelle leaves, Stacy's mother starts calling. Each time, the phone rings and rings and rings. By early afternoon, she drives to the house too. When she opens the front door, she walks into the house. Just like Janelle, she walks around, trying to figure out where everyone is. What she and Janelle don't know is that they're disturbing a crime scene, and pretty soon, they're not going to be the only ones doing that. Stacy McCall's mother is standing inside an empty home, and the longer she stands in that quiet living room, the more she knows something is wrong. The purses are exactly where Janelle saw them, 3 of them, lined up neatly on the floor, like everyone's still there and about to leave for the day. She calls Suzie's name, Stacy's name, Sherrill's name. No one answers, just like Janelle. She walks down the hallway, still calling out, listening for anything. A footstep, a door, a voice. She hears nothing. On the kitchen counter, there's a full pot of coffee. 1 cup is poured. The coffee inside is cold. In Sherrill Levitt, the mom, in her bedroom, her cigarettes are on the nightstand, and she never goes anywhere without them. In Suzie's room, the waterbed looks like it was slept in. Stacy's mom now starts making phone calls. Friends, family, anyone who might know what's going on. Within minutes, the driveway starts to fill with people. They want to help. 1 car, then another, then another. Worried friends walk through the front door. They call out names. They open doors. They check rooms. They move things around without thinking that they might be touching evidence. They're just trying to help. The answering machine, this is 1992, is on the floor, and there's a light blinking. There's a message on it that was left earlier that morning. One of the friends presses play, and it's a man's voice. Later on, in police interviews, no one can remember the exact words that voice says, just that it felt strange, unsettling. Again, trying to be helpful, someone tries to clear space on the tape in case one of the missing women call. The message with the man's voice is deleted. It's a potential piece of direct evidence just gone and unrecoverable. The police are called, and by the time they arrive, the scene is no longer a straightforward one clue-wise. It's a house full of footprints, fingerprints, and people just doing their best to help, but they're making things tough for investigators. Officers look around and take in the details. There's no forced entry, no struggle, no broken locks, no open windows, nothing to indicate a panic or a fight. But 3 women are gone, without their purses, without their cars, without anything they would need to leave on their own, and nothing, not a single thing, tells police where they could be or how they disappear in the middle of the night without anyone seeing or hearing a thing. The women are gone, the scene is compromised, and Springfield police now have a case that will grow far beyond this house and become one of Missouri's biggest investigations. Authorities start their work in the late afternoon of June 7th, 1992. The first officers step into a house that's already been walked through by friends, family, and neighbors. The front door is open. The driveway is full of cars. The scene is active and has been for hours. Inside, officers begin a systematic pass through each room. They note the purses, the coffee, the cigarettes, and in Susie's room near the waterbed, police find something no one else has: a pair of shorts with a flowered pattern on them. They're found neatly folded. There's jewelry tucked inside the pockets. Police continue their initial pass. They open closets, check windows, test locks, and there are no broken windows, no damaged doors, no signs of a struggle anywhere. There's nothing that obviously explains how 3 people could have been taken from a quiet suburban home without a single sound. And that's what police are starting to suspect happened. Officers begin knocking on doors up and down Delmar Street. They ask the same questions at every house. Did you see anything? Did you hear anything? Any cars? Any voices? Anything at all? The answers? They're all the same. No one sees any movement at the Levitt house. No one hears any kind of disturbance. No one remembers anything unusual in the middle of the night. Springfield police start expanding the investigation to surrounding areas. They check the hospitals, the jails, they check highways and nearby roads. There's still no trace of Sherrill, Suzie, or Stacy anywhere. That evening, detectives expand the investigation and bring in more investigative firepower. Evidence technicians, crime scene analysts, more officers for canvassing. They take fingerprints throughout the house, but the prints turn out to be a mix of friends, family, neighbors, and anyone who walked through earlier. The scene is just too contaminated to build a clear picture. By nightfall, detectives know that this is not a typical missing persons case. There are no signs they left willingly, and detectives begin to consider the possibility that all 3 were taken. As with all missing person cases, the window for a safe recovery is already closing. Springfield police release a public statement. They ask for tips. They ask for anyone who sees anything, a car, a person, whatever, just call. Reporters begin arriving on Delmar Street, and cameras roll. The story spreads fast. Detectives tell the press that they're concerned for the safety of all 3 women, given that none of them left with their cars or personal belongings. So police have no suspects, no witnesses, no motive, no clear starting point. And the clock is ticking. The case expands after the disappearance of Sherrill Levitt, her daughter Suzie Streeter, and Susie's friend Stacy McCall. Springfield police expand the investigation, and over the next 2 weeks, the investigation ripples out over the entire state of Missouri. The first step is to look closely at the inner radius, the areas closest to Sherrill Levitt's home. Officers search ditches, fields, alleys, parking lots, and wooded patches around the neighborhood. Nothing useful is found. Then they broaden the radius. They check parks, vacant lots, construction sites, anywhere someone could have gone in the early hours of June 7th. The 3 victims, and at this point police are thinking of them as victims, their cars are photographed and processed. The vehicles are untouched. There's no sign anyone moved them. No new fingerprints can be found that can be identified. No forensic leads emerge from any of this. The search expands again. Aerial units fly grid patterns over South Springfield. Ground teams walk through thick brush and stream beds. Officers search the area around Lake Springfield and stretches of highway between Springfield and Branson. Again, nothing of any use is found. And now tips are pouring in. People report possible sightings in surrounding counties, possible vehicles, suspects, leads. Most of these are checked and cleared within hours, leading nowhere. Detectives begin interviewing anyone connected to the 3 women: friends, co-workers, neighbors, recent acquaintances, anyone who might make some kind of connection to what is happening. These interviews produce No clear suspects. There aren't any recent problems, conflicts, or threats against the three women. So investigators move even farther out. They contact businesses where the women often went. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children is contacted. Federal resources are offered. The case begins appearing on statewide news, then on regional news, and then eventually on national broadcasts. The public awareness campaign is in full swing. Posters with the women's photos go up across Missouri. Families organize search parties. Volunteers canvass other neighborhoods. Police set up a tip line to handle this big volume of calls. And by the end of the first week, detectives have eliminated every obvious possibility. They know the women did not leave voluntarily. They know they don't drive away in their cars. And they know that there are no signs of violence in the house. They know that this abduction, if this is an abduction, happens without anyone in the neighborhood hearing a sound. Detectives start developing a list of individuals who need deeper scrutiny. It's full of men the women knew, former relationships, recent acquaintances, anyone whose name keeps popping up. And there's one name, one individual with the history of violence and conflict in Springfield who will emerge as the first major person of interest in this case. So the search has grown, the tip line is overwhelmed, and 2 weeks after the mysterious disappearances on Delmar Street, detectives are about to focus on someone who knows this town, someone who is blinking brightly on their radar screen. Days after the three women are reported missing, a woman in Florida is watching television. Her name is Dorothy Zellers. Pictures of three faces come on the screen: Sherrill Levitt, Suzie Streeter, Stacy McCall. The report says they're missing from Springfield, Missouri. 10 years earlier, Dorothy's own daughter, Sharon, is murdered. The man convicted in that case, Robert Craig Cox. In 1979, Sharon was 19 and worked at Disney World. One night, she leaves work and never makes it home. Her body is found 5 days later. She's been beaten and left in a sewer just a few hundred feet from the motel where Cox is staying with his family. The night of Sharon's murder, Cox returns to the motel with an inch of his tongue missing. He claims he bit it off in a fight. A nurse later testifies, though, that the angle of the bite makes no sense, that it would need to have come from someone facing Cox. The Zellers family believes that Sharon bites him as she fights for her life. A jury believes that too. Cox is convicted and sentenced to death. But years later, the Florida Supreme Court overturns the conviction. They say the jury didn't have enough evidence to support the verdict, so he walks out of death row a free man. As far as the Zeller family is concerned, the state of Florida let a killer go. Cox eventually moves to Missouri, to Springfield, and the Zellers know it. When Dorothy's husband and son get home that day, she tells them about the faces she'd just seen on television. Her son Steve picks up the phone and calls Springfield police. He says, "You have a missing women case, and the man who killed my sister lives in your city." Up to that moment, detectives had never heard this name. So they look him up. Robert Craig Cox, former Army Ranger, once on death row for murder, released on appeal, later arrested in California for kidnapping and armed robbery. He's a bad dude. Cox moves in with his parents in Springfield, and in the summer of 1992, he's working at a job locating underground utilities. It's a job that takes him through neighborhoods, along sidewalks, through yards, and past houses all over South Springfield. He knows the area, he knows the streets, and he says later that he's actually done work in the area of Sherrill Levitt's house. Detectives bring him in for an interview. Cox is calm. He's polite. He says he has an alibi. He claims he was at church that morning, the morning of June 7th, and his girlfriend confirms it. So on paper, Cox is clean. With no physical evidence tying him to Delmar Street and what seems to be a solid alibi, he slides down the suspect list. Detectives move on to other names, other leads, other possibilities. But even as that happens, they note something in their reports. His history, his violence, what he's capable of. This may not be the last time they hear his name. Robert Craig Cox is now the first major person of interest in the disappearance of the Springfield Three. But detectives know there are other leads, other men, other stories, other details that need to be followed up. And as weeks pass, more clues are about to surface. Be sure to subscribe to this channel and hit alerts to get part 2 to the story and all new stories as we tell them.